Hey everyone, and welcome. We're diving into a topic I know a lot of you are thinking about these days, AI and its impact on society. And trust me, you're in for a treat because we've got a whole stack of books from some of the leading voices in AI to guide our exploration.
It's like we've condensed months of reading into one insightful, thought-provoking conversation just for you.
You got it. So buckle up.
Okay.
Because we're about to unpack some seriously big ideas. Why don't we start with a book that's considered a bit of a modern classic in AI circles, Superintelligence by Nick Bostrom. Now, Bostrom's background is fascinating. He's a philosopher with a background in computational neuroscience, so he's not just thinking about how to build AI, but what happens if we succeed.
And that's where things get really interesting. He lays out this idea of superintelligence, which goes beyond just AI being good at tasks. We're talking AI that surpasses human intelligence in every way imaginable. And he makes this really compelling argument that superintelligence could be the best thing to ever happen to humanity, or the worst.
Okay, so best case scenario, utopia. Worst case, total disaster. That's a pretty wide range of possibilities. What makes the difference between the two?
It all boils down to control and alignment. Imagine an AI so smart it can outthink us at every turn, but its goals are even slightly misaligned with our values. Suddenly, we're not in control anymore. It's a bit like giving a toddler the keys to a spaceship. You just wouldn't do it, right?
Definitely not a recipe for a smooth ride. So how do we make sure this superintelligence, if we ever create it, is working with us, not against us?
That's the million-dollar question. And Bostrom talks about the need for something called AI alignment. It's this whole field of research dedicated to making sure that as AI gets smarter, its goals and values remain aligned with ours.
So it's like building in a moral compass from day one.
In a way, yes. It's about making sure these incredibly powerful systems stay under human control, are used for good, and don't accidentally veer off course with consequences we can't even imagine. And this leads us nicely into our next book, which takes a look at the global race to develop AI.
You're talking about AI superpowers, right? Seems like every other day there's a new headline about this.
All right, AI Superpowers, China, Silicon Valley, and the New World Order by Kaifu Lee dives deep into who might come out on top in this AI revolution. Lee himself is a leading AI expert, and he argues that while Silicon Valley has been leading the charge, China is catching up fast, and they've got a secret weapon, data.
I've heard a lot about that. Isn't China sitting on this gold mine of data because of its massive population?
Exactly. Data is like the fuel that powers AI, and with such a huge population, China has access to an incredible amount of it. They're using this data to train their AI algorithms at a scale we haven't seen before. Which makes you wonder, what are the implications of that kind of head start, both positive and, well, potentially concerning?
It's like we're witnessing a whole new kind of arms race. But instead of nukes, it's algorithms and data. How do you think this is going to reshape the global balance of power? Will it be more about collaboration or competition?
That's the billion-dollar question. Lee seems to think that a future where AI benefits everyone depends on cooperation, especially between China and the U.S. It's not just about who develops the most advanced AI, but about global leadership, ethics, and making sure this technology is used responsibly on a global scale.
This is heavy stuff. We're talking about a potential paradigm shift in global power, all driven by AI. And on that note, I think it's time to shift gears a bit and talk about the human side of things. How does all of this impact us on an individual level? Maybe we can dig into that with a book that asks, what does it mean to be human in the age of AI?
You're talking about Max Tegmark's Life 3.0, a really thought-provoking read.
Yeah, Tegmark comes from a physics and AI research background, and he's got this amazing ability to connect seemingly different ideas in ways most people wouldn't think of.
Totally. And he does it brilliantly in Life 3.0 by introducing us to this concept of, well, Life 3.0. Basically, he argues that AI isn't just a tool. It represents a potential new stage in the evolution of life itself.
Whoa, hold on. So we're not just talking about smarter smartphones here. We're talking about a fundamental shift in what it means to be alive.
Exactly. And that leads to some seriously big questions. How do we define intelligence when AI starts to match or even surpass our own? What happens to our sense of purpose and identity in a world where AI can potentially outperform us in pretty much every field?
Okay, now those are some deep questions I haven't really considered before. What's Tegmark's take on all of this?
He argues that AI could be the most transformative technology in human history, but it also forces us to confront what makes us uniquely human. It's a call to action for all of us to decide what kind of future we want to see.
Wow. Okay, so we've got superintelligence, a global AI power struggle, and now we're questioning the very essence of what it means to be human. And to think We're just getting started.
You better believe it. We've
Yeah.
only just scratched the surface here. We've got a few more fascinating books lined up that will take us even deeper into this world of AI and its impact on society.
I am so ready. Let's jump into the next one. So we covered some seriously mind-blowing stuff already, from superintelligence to a potential global AI power shift. But buckle up, because this next book throws us headfirst into what some are calling the defining revolution of our time. We're talking about the Fourth Industrial Revolution by Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum. You've probably heard of him. He's a pretty big deal when it comes to the intersection of economics and tech.
Oh, absolutely. Schwab's a giant in those fields. And in this book, he argues that we're not just witnessing a few technological advancements, but a fundamental shift in how we live, work, and interact with the world. Think the invention of the printing press or the steam engine, that level of impact.
So not just an upgrade, but a whole new operating system for society. That's a pretty bold claim.
It is, but Schwab backs it up. He argues that AI, robotics, and all these emerging technologies are combining at an unprecedented rate, creating this era of exponential change. He calls it the Fourth Industrial Revolution, building upon the previous three, each of which fundamentally reshaped our world.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. It makes you realize how quickly things are changing, even compared to just a few years ago. What were some of the things that stood out to you from Schwab's perspective on this revolution?
Well, one thing that struck me was how he emphasized both the incredible opportunities and the potential challenges that come with this rapid advancement. He argues that AI can help us address some of the world's most pressing problems, but it could also worsen existing inequalities if we're not really careful about how we develop and implement it.
It's like this double-edged sword, right? We have to be mindful of the potential downsides even as we explore the positive impact AI can have. And speaking of potential downsides, that brings us to a book that explores some pretty unsettling but undeniably fascinating possibilities. We're talking about The Age of M, Work, Love, and Life When Robots Rule the Earth by Robin Hanson.
This is where things get really interesting and maybe a little mind-bending for some. Hansen, who's an economist, jumps headfirst into this future where the dominant form of intelligence isn't biological, it's emulated. We're talking about a world where we can scan a human brain and transfer its entire essence, memories, personality, everything into a powerful computer system, essentially creating digital copies of ourselves.
Okay, wait, back up for a second. Digital copies of ourselves, with all our thoughts, feelings, experiences. That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
It does, doesn't it? But Hansen argues that this technology, while still in its early stages, could become a reality. And he doesn't shy away from exploring the implications of such a future for our economies, our relationships, even our understanding of what it means to be human.
It's both fascinating and a little terrifying, if I'm being honest. I mean, what happens to our sense of self in a world where we can create copies of our own minds? Does that diminish what it means to be human or expand it in ways we can't even comprehend?
That's the big question, right? And Hansen dives right into it. He talks about how these M's, as he calls them, might form their own societies, their own economies, maybe even their own cultures, potentially coexisting with humans or maybe even surpassing us in their capabilities. It's a lot to process, for sure.
It really is. It's like looking into a mirror, reflecting a future that's both familiar and completely alien at the same time. And it makes you wonder, are we ready for a world where the lines between human and machine become so blurred?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one that we as a society need to be actively discussing as we continue to develop these technologies. We can't just focus on the how of AI, but also on the why, and maybe even more importantly, the what if.
I love that, because at the end of the day, the future of AI isn't just about lines of code. It's about the choices we make as a society and the kind of world we want to create.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And speaking of the people shaping these choices, our next book brings us face to face with the architects of the AI revolution, the brilliant minds who are building our future one algorithm at a time.
You're talking about Architects of Intelligence, the truth about AI from the people building it, by Martin Ford. I've heard this one's a real eye-opener.
It really is. Ford interviews some of the biggest names in AI research, the people on the front lines, building the algorithms that are changing the world. He gives us a glimpse into their hopes, their fears, and their visions for the future of AI. It's like getting a backstage pass to the future of intelligence itself.
That's a fantastic way to put it. So what were some of the key takeaways from these interviews? What are the architects of intelligence most excited about? And what keeps them up at night?
You know, one of the things that really struck me is just how diverse the perspectives are within the AI community. Some of these experts are incredibly optimistic about AI's potential to solve humanity's greatest challenges, while others are more cautious, even a bit apprehensive, urging us to proceed thoughtfully and ethically.
It really makes you realize that even the people building the future of AI don't have it all figured out yet. They're grappling with these big questions right alongside us.
Exactly. It's not like there's this pre-programmed path we're on. It's more like we're all, experts included, figuring this thing out as we go. And that's both exciting and a little intimidating.
It totally is. It means we all have a role to play in shaping how AI develops. It's not just up to the engineers and coders, is it? So, for everyone listening who's been on this whirlwind journey with us, from superintelligence to robots ruling the Earth, if you had to pick just one thing that stuck with you so far, what would it be?
Oh man, that's like asking me to pick a favorite star in the sky. There's so many. But
Lovely.
I think what really stands out is how this whole deep dive has been about more than just understanding the technical stuff about AI. It's about prompting those what if questions,
Yeah.
really making us think differently about the future and our place in it.
Couldn't have done better myself. And the thing is, we've only just scratched the surface of these books. There's so much more to explore. But hopefully we've given everyone a taste, enough to spark their curiosity and encourage them to dive deeper into the topics that resonated with them.
And don't worry, we wouldn't leave you hanging. We'll make sure to link to all the books we've talked about in the show notes so you can easily find them if you want to keep the AI conversation going. Consider it your own personalized, curated reading list, ready to take your understanding to the next level.
Love it. Now, before we wrap things up, I did want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the different perspectives within the AI expert community itself. That really stood out to me.
Yeah, that's a super important point. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking there's one right answer when it comes to AI and its impact. But the reality is, it's messy. Some folks are incredibly gung-ho about the potential benefits, while others are much more cautious about the risks. And honestly, it's that tension, that ongoing conversation, that's going to be crucial for making sure AI is a force for good in the world.
So instead of shying away from those different viewpoints, we should be leaning into them, right?
100%. Engage with them, challenge them, and most importantly, form your own informed opinions. Because the future of AI isn't something that's just going to happen to us. It's something we're all actively creating together, whether we realize it or not.
That's such a powerful message to end on. So to everyone listening, keep those questions coming. Keep exploring these ideas. And remember, the future of AI is a conversation we're all a part of. Until next time, this is The Deep Dive, signing off.